Just imagine hearing "Kiss" by Prince. You know, it's like the intro. Pow.
Welcome everyone to Unbelievable, the podcast where I tell my dear friend Kurt two incredible stories, and one of them is fake, one of them is real.
And I try to guess which one's which.
That's right. I am shot put and discus star athlete Luis Mejia, and I'm joined by international horse girl extraordinaire Kurt Danner, and we are here to share with you a couple of fake and true stories. And as Kurt said earlier, he needs to figure out which is which. I'm taking over the show. I am telling you the two stories for today's program. And, well, Kurt, how do you feel? Do you feel confident after last week's display?
You know what? I actually feel less confident this time because even though I got it last time, I feel like maybe you felt me out and adapted accordingly. So I'm prepared for anything you've got to throw at me.
As we have said before, Kurt and I know each other very well. We are former lovers, current lovers, future lovers, and also former roommates. And through that, we know how to lie to one another. And my best efforts today are going to be to try and lie to Kurt just enough so that he doesn't know what I'm saying. So, Kurt, are you ready?
I am very ready.
All right, before we get started, since I'm going to be running most of the show this time, I am going to ask our dearest little Curtis if you have a fun little fact for me to give us a bit of a foundation for deciphering fact from fiction. Kurt?
I do, in fact. It is both little and fun.
Incredible.
Did you know that Napoleon Bonaparte was once attacked by a horde of bunnies? He had requested that a rabbit hunt be arranged for himself and his men. When the rabbits were released from their cages, they charged towards Bonaparte and the soldiers, and they were forced to defend themselves. True or false?
That is difficult, Kurt. It's a swarm of bunnies attacking.
We said last week, more smoke, more mirrors. I'm bringing my A game, baby.
That's true. I think it's a little too incredible for me to say it was false, Kurt. So I'm going to say it's real.
It is real.
Incredible.
It is real. You got it.
Wonderful. All right, Kurt. So we're going to go ahead and tell you my two stories that I've got for you today. And I actually am giving you a choice. Since I've been watching a lot of Matrix the last week, I want to give you a choice, a blue pill or a red pill, if you will. Would you like to hear first the most insane story, or would you like to hear the most low-key story? Keep in mind, both stories are a little out there, but you have the choice of choosing a little more or a little less. What do you think?
Yeah, okay, give me the low key story first. Whet my appetite a little bit, and then I'm ready, baby. I'm hungry. Hit me with your wildest stuff. Okay, so the low key one first.
Sounds good. All right, so I am going to tell you the story of the phonograph seal hunter.
Okay, let's do it.
Let me paint the picture. This is 1919, early America, right? So the war has just ended. All of North America has to figure out what to occupy their time with, right? Most of the young people are back from war. The flu epidemic is finished, so we don't have to worry about that right now. So what's the
more mask mandate.
No, there's no more mask mandate at this point. So people have to figure out what to occupy their time with. And what's going on at this point? We may have gotten rid of the flu pandemic, but we have a new pandemic on the rise, Curtis. Can you guess what it is?
Seals, I think. I hope.
It is seals.
It is seals.
It is seals. But why are seals a pandemic? Why are they bothering us so much?
Okay, I'm going to guess that they have some sort of invasive species thing.
God, you are so smart. We can really tell that you just graduated university, Kurt.
Wowee.
So it is true. It is true. Seals around the area of the Puget Sound are eating salmon a little much.
Okay.
They're eating a lot of salmon, meaning that the salmon population of the Puget Sound is decreasing for local fishermen around that place in that time period. So there's a real issue. So fishermen want to take it to their own hands to see what they can do with the seal problem. Now, again, it's been described as a seal epidemic, and there's a dwindling salmon population, and this is really the most exciting thing since the Somme or the Battle of Gallipoli. Really, this is there's nothing much going on at this point. There was one person, a fisherman slash hunter named Ed Corfey, who
Wait, are fishermen not hunters? Is there a distinction?
Fish hunters as well as a land hunter, Ed Corfey. So I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess technically they are hunters, but
Fish hunter is way cooler than fisherman. Like if you're like someone says, "What do you do for?" "Oh, I'm a fisherman." "Oh, okay,
I'm a fish hunter.
That sounds tranquil." "No, I'm a fish hunter." Whoa.
That's true. Maybe there's a size of the fish situation, Kurt, where the bigger the fish, the more hunter you are.
If you're a fisherman, you're catching fish, but if you're a fish hunter, you're doing it, but you're wearing a leather jacket and sunglasses while you're doing it.
And you have a scar throughout your whole face.
A scar of the origin story of which you won't talk about. Okay, I'm sorry. I've derailed this enough. Back to the program.
Okay. That's all right. Well, anyway, we're talking about a fish hunter here. A bona fide fish hunter. His name was Ed Corfey. He was a native from that region, and he attempted to solve the situation. He said to himself, I'm going to go kill all these seals that are impacting the salmon production. And so he did. He goes out, and he said, I am going to make sure I use the technology of the time to further assist me in my hunting endeavors. So it's 1919. And what's the newest piece of technology? The hottest off the presses piece of new revolutionary technology. That's right, Kurt. You guessed it correctly. It's the phonograph.
I would have said BlackBerry, but okay.
The BlackBerry is that old?
BlackBerry, yeah.
No, it's the phonograph. It's this new revolutionary idea that allows you to play music wherever you want. So he thought to himself, much like the siren song of old tales that lured sailors into their certain death, I am going to use synthesized voice to lure seals to their demise. And he did. He used a phonograph to hunt seals. And there's actually a newspaper scrapping from that time. This one's coming to you from the Montreal Gazette. Okay?
Okay.
And it says as follows. The article is pretty long, but this is a paragraph you need to hear. It goes as follows. Quote, a phonograph and a rifle were the principal items in Corfey's outfit. According to his statement, he played his phonograph on the rock and sands, and the seals came out of the water to listen to the music. Whenever a seal puts its head above the surface, Corfey's rifle spoke, and the seal dropped. Each seal is said to be able to destroy $1,000 worth of salmon a year. So,
wow, it's both brutal and fascinating that would work.
Yeah, just imagine this man on a boat, nothing but a phonograph and a rifle.
See, this is the distinction. He's a fish hunter. That's fish hunter type behavior right there.
Yeah, a normal fisherman would not do this. But before we move on, Kurt, what kind of music do you think would be luring in seals at this time?
That's what I was just thinking about, because I wonder if they're just curious about what the noise is or the sound vibrations, or if it is genuinely the music. But I like to picture that it's like big band swing. They're like very caricature 1920s seals.
Yeah.
You know?
Or maybe I was picturing more opera. Like they're just vibing to the Barber of Seville. These seals just looking for a haircut.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Let me make a second choice.
Okay.
Let me make an alternative choice. Alternatively, I like to think that it's just 80s music, specifically Prince.
This is 1919, Kurt.
Not important. Just imagine hearing "Kissed by Prince." You know, it's like the intro. Pow.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine being a seal and listening to Prince for the very first time and just getting shot in the mouth.
Man.
Oh, man. Unfortunately, this story does not tell us what kind of music they were listening to. However, this does not end here. I would love to end this story nicely up with this man shooting the seals, but reports from the time tell us that Ed Corfey's stunt inspired others to do the same and lure seals with music. However, most people were not as inspired to bring a whole phonograph because, of course, they were bulky, they were heavy, they were expensive.
Oh, they're small time. They're not cut out for this like Ed Corfey is, dude.
Exactly. Ed Corfey had at least a little bit of funds, but what is the demographic that is going to mostly listen to what Ed Corfey is saying? You guessed it right again, Kurt. You are 10 out of 10. It is kids. Kids are going to...
The kids are seal hunters? They're fish hunters?
Yeah, the kids. So reports from the time are saying that kids are going out, standing on the rocks of the Puget Sound, and bringing instruments with them to lure seals. However, if you're a kid, you're not going to bring a whole violin, right, or a whole cello.
Right.
That's not your style. What's the most mobile instrument you can bring? And some reports say that kids were seen with jaw harps, also known as juice harps.
Yeah.
The little harps that you put in your mouth that go doing, 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 doing. The kids are seen on the rocks of the Puget Sound with jaw harps and pistols.
Man, I was
luring seals.
I was really, when you
rocks.
said the easiest instrument, I was thinking kazoo. And now I'm not sure what's better, like a symphony of kazoos or a symphony of jaw harps. Oh, man.
I don't know, but just picture, unfortunately, the details are a little bit shallow on how many kids went and what they were using, but just an army. Just imagine an army of young children with jaw harps and pistols by their side awaiting seals to show up.
Just picture it's 1920 something. You're a teen. It's summertime. You wake up, you slept in. Reach to your nightstand. Your jaw harp is there next to your 6-shooter. Throw back some whiskey.
The war is ended. What else are we going to do?
Oh, man. That'd be a great party.
All these kids hearing of the stories of their dads, of their parents returning from Germany, hearing how they shot all the Germans and whatever, and they're just trying to reclaim this glory by going out and shooting seals while playing the jaw harp.
I bet... Can I ask you, did you find anything in your research about like older generations or newspapers saying the youth is ruined? Because that's got to be great material. Like the youth these days is shooting seals and playing their newfangled jaw harps.
Unfortunately, I didn't see any of that, but I can tell you from having done personal research on old newspapers, the older generation was always complaining about the newer generation. So, of course, there was a group of parents, at least in Montreal, saying, this is an outrage. My kid does not do his homework anymore. He just goes out and shoots seals and plays the jaw harp for hours at a time.
They've been ruined by this darn phonograph.
Exactly. And it doesn't say how much this affected the economy or whatever, but if we can be okay with the $1,000 a year one seal would consume, well, I'm assuming if an army of kids went out there shooting seals, we probably saved, who knows, at least $15,000 in salmon harvest of the year. Who's to say?
Okay.
There's no real numbers, but this is what happened at the time in the late 19 teens, if you will.
All right.
So that's our first story. Our first story is luring seals with phonographs. Have you got any questions for me, Curtis?
I feel like I'm just digesting all this information. I've just had the image of like several children shooting seals playing a jaw harp in my head for a while. So do you know how long this went on? When did this stop happening? Was there a moment where they're like, okay, there's now like 5 seals left, so we can probably go home?
So there are no further reports. There are reports of the seal epidemic happening right after the flu epidemic. So from 19 to like 21, that was a real issue. And this story is from 1919. So I'm assuming that it went on for a little bit, but I really don't know.
Maybe it was really like a case of something people were very worried about, and then it just kind of tapered off. people
That's
just
true.
forgot.
That's true. And it does say that the Federal Commission for Fish and Wildlife acknowledged the fact that Ed Corfey killed seals with a phonograph. So in a way, this was, let's just say, sponsored or acknowledged by official authorities, right?
It'd be fun to do. You know, the like little domino leading up to a big domino. Little domino is like something that led to the invention of the phonograph. Big domino, children playing jaw harps, shooting seals.
Exactly. But, you know, listen, maybe they didn't solve the problem of seals raging throughout the Puget Sound. However, they did do their part. You know, each person went out and did their own. They expressed their own individuality, right, Kurt?
Good for them. Good for them.
Good for them. Good for them. So that's the first story. It's seals being shot and being lured around by Prince's Kiss.
Yeah.
Ooh. Right. Well, and that was, Kurt, I'm afraid to say, the least interesting or the least unbelievable story that I have for you today.
Why are you afraid to say that? Means we got nowhere to go but up.
Exactly. And this next story, we may have started in the beginning of last century, but we're going to take it way back to the 13th century, so the 1200s. Okay. We're going to the end of the 1200s, so 1290s, and we're going to go across the other side of the world to Italy. Now,
all right.
Picture yourself, 1290s Italy. Everything was messed up, really. There are families infighting, kingdoms dissolving and being created all at once, and just a lot of fighting all across Europe. And Italy, of course, was a huge part of this, right? Now, one of the big powers in Europe at this time was, of course, the Papal States, right?
Right.
Now, the Papal States were ruled by the Pope. So the Pope was not only the highest authority in the Catholic faith, but also the king, the ruler of the Papal States. So not only was there spiritual power, but there was also diplomatic power.
And he gets a cool hat, too.
And he gets an amazing hat,
Don't
Kurt.
forget that. That's in the job perks.
Exactly. So being Pope at this time was not just an honorific title like it is today. Like, being Pope brought a lot of wealth and brought a lot of influence and brought a lot of friends and a lot of enemies, right? So a lot of people were often fighting at this point to become Pope.
Right.
A little bit of context, at this era, the idea of the cardinal conclave, so the idea of cardinals getting together to choose the next pope, is not around. It's not a thing that's happening at the time.
How did they choose the pope?
Glad you asked, Kurt, because, I mean, popes were basically chosen by another person murdering the current pope and then saying, "Nope, sorry, I'm the pope now."
All right.
Right. Yeah.
The rule of two.
Yeah, exactly.
Each pope will be stronger than the last in combat.
We are not comparing the papacy to the Sith, but, you know, unbelievable. Just want to make sure we gave a little bit on disclaimer there.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, a little disclaimer.
No shade on the pope.
The current papacy. Now, what's interesting about this is that after years, centuries of no order, the cardinals got together and decided, we are going to elect a pope. It's not the conclave we have now, but it is essentially the beginning, a pope vote, a vote for the pope, a ballot for the pope.
Okay.
Now, the cardinals get together. This is in 1292, Kurt. 1292, the pope has just died. The cardinals are getting together to choose who the next pope is. But there is a lot of problems with this election. In particular, the fact that there are two warring families in Rome at this time that are selling favors to a bunch of the cardinals, right? So a lot of the cardinals are divided on either side, whether they support, this is the Colonna family or the Orsini family.
Okay.
The cardinals are divided in who's going to become the pope, whether the Colonna family or the Orsini family. Who's going to get the papacy?
Okay, so even though it's put to a vote, it seems like it's it's gonna go to whoever the Cardinals owe the most to.
Essentially, because
their loyalties are split.
Right, because the Pope needs to get the majority, or at least, the unanimous agreement between the cardinals of who's going to become the Pope. And because there's such a division, such a rivalry between these two families, the Colonna and Orsini families, well, we can't really decide who the Pope is. This goes on for 2 years, Kurt. 2 years. So for 2 years, the Papal States, one of the most powerful states in Europe at the time, is without a ruler.
The hat is vacant.
Yeah, it's vacant. The Holy See, the throne is there just by itself, acquiring dust, right? And not only is this a problem for spiritual situations, if you're a follower of the Catholic faith, well, of course this impacts you. There's no real church follower, but you have a country to run. You have a state to run.
Right.
Who's going to be there? So this is a real issue. While the cardinals are all arguing, a monk, an ascetic monk, so someone really secluded, decides to write a letter to the cardinals. And this letter essentially says, God is going to punish the cardinals if they don't reach a decision soon. Essentially telling them, you are going to go to hell if you don't reach a decision for the new pope in as soon as you can.
What a bold move to slap the wrists of someone higher up than you in your own church.
Right.
Wow.
And this person is some monk. So what's going to happen to him? They're going to kick him out of his house. He doesn't care. He's living as a nomad, right? Here's the crazy part, Kurt. It worked. This letter worked. The cardinals receive this and say, oh yeah, no, that's right. We totally get it. So should we make this guy pope? And so they read this letter from the guy named Pietro de Moroni. Pietro de Moroni becomes Pope Celestine V.
Wow.
So in 1294, now we have Pope Celestine V, just this random 79-year-old guy.
Is there anything that implies that he wanted it, or even that he was open to the idea? I mean, did he resist becoming Pope?
He didn't resist becoming Pope, but all the outsiders saw him as a weak-willed Pope. They were like, what's he going to know? He became Pope when he was 79 years old, and before it, he was a secluded monk.
Wow.
What the hell just happened?
He just sent them a letter that said, to whom it may concern, please figure it out. And they sent him back a letter that said, no, you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's precisely what happened. So now we have a weak-willed pope named Celestine V, who's an octogenarian man, really trying his best. And he's in the throne of the Papal States and the head of the church. Mm-hmm. Now, this doesn't go unseen, of course. So tongues start speaking around Italy, saying this guy just became pope by writing a letter. And a lot of people thought, well, he's a terrible pope. I'm going to write a letter too and try to see if I can become pope also. So letters began arriving in Vatican City day after day. They were incessant. So much so that really it was so many letters of people saying, this guy shouldn't be the pope. Let me be the pope, or let this other guy be the pope. Of course, the Colonna and Orsini family also said, yeah, you should have chosen one of our guys.
Right.
And it was so frequent, the amount of letters that were arriving, that they even used a special oven to burn all the letters that were arriving saying, let me be pope. You probably know how today, when the cardinal conclave chooses a new pope, they throw their ballots into the fire, and if the smoke is white, there's a new pope. If the smoke is black, they still haven't chosen.
Right.
So there was a constant billow of black smoke coming out of Vatican City for around 6 to 8 months. Just literally day after day, the black smoke would continue around Vatican City saying, listen, guys, there's not going to be a new pope. We have one. Don't worry.
And the smoke is all from the letters.
Yeah, the smoke is all from the letters, right?
That's if you know how fast paper burns. That's such a like it really puts in perspective how many letters it is for a constant smoke.
That's true. I mean, and this is of course maybe it's an inflated account for the time or whenever people were looking up, but I mean, you can really tell just how much.
Yeah, either way, that's a ton of letters.
It's a ton of letters, and it goes to show just what happened next. It makes sense because after seeing that so many letters were being burned and nothing was being made, two families decide to attack the papacy directly. So two families decide to go into Rome and attack the papal states in Vatican City for the papacy. They said,
wow,
letters are not doing anything, we're going in. And the two families that went in were the Colonna and the Orsini families, Kurt.
So they're united now.
Yeah. So they decided, let's put away our differences, join together, and fight against the Pope.
Wow.
Which they did. They attacked Rome for several days. Rome was sieged by the Colonna and Orsini families. And Celestine V, of course, was forced to resign. A pope had never resigned at this point, and he was forced to resign, which he did. And now, great, the families achieved their success of getting a pope out. But wait, we have an issue. We want a pope, said one family.
Yeah,
the other family said, yeah.
They didn't think ahead, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. So the same issues that brought this man to power are being brought back again because they can't decide on who's going to become the pope. So now that they've spent several months attacking Rome, the two families start fighting between one another for, again, couple months, maybe a year. They start squabbling over who's going to be the pope. Another year happens. Battles and coercing cardinals happen, whatever. The cardinals get together again, and the ballot is chosen, and bam, an Orsini family member is crowned the pope. This pope would become Pope Boniface VIII, and in a perfect world, this would come to the end there forever.
Right.
However, this is Middle Ages
Right.
Italy, meaning the terrible is always around the corner. Boniface VIII was awful. He is also reported to be put into Dante's Inferno on the 8th circle of hell.
Okay.
Because he was so bad. So, and Boniface VIII also did a bunch of crimes during his papacy that when he died, the next pope decided to try him posthumously.
Okay.
So the corpse of Pope Boniface was there. Anyway, this is all to say, this didn't end the big issues between popes, right? These would continue until after the Renaissance. But the election, the rise of Pope Boniface VIII to the papacy would end this whole weird civil war between families, between warring states, that led to Pope Celestine becoming the pope when he didn't want to, being pope for a little bit, and then getting kicked out of the papacy, which, if you ask me, was probably his decision. Like, he was fine to go, right?
Yeah, I think it got out while the getting was good. Though, little Domino, old 79-year-old monk writes a letter. Big Domino, Pope's dead body put on the stand for cross-examination.
Exactly. So that's the end of this second story, Curtis.
Wow.
Have you any inquiry?
That one is it, dude. I didn't think we could go up from jaw harp and shooting seals, but oh boy, we have. We're up to 11 here, baby.
Yeah, more smoke, more mirrors.
More
right?
smoke, more mirrors. Okay, so after now we're on to the third pope. Did things settle down after that? Did they return to normal? Because it seems like you need to de-escalate into some sort of system.
Yeah, so Boniface actually ended up dying in prison from all his crimes. He was beaten up so badly in prison that he died shortly after.
Oops.
And sure, things went back to semi-normal, but really, I mean, at this point, the papacy is still such a power in Europe that, of course, in 30 years something would change.
It's just impressive if you think about what a stable institution the Catholic Church is today. That it's got a system, and it's an institution. It feels like it's been around basically forever. If you think of like this moment where I'm sure people knew that there was some amount of corruption of families having influence over who was the next pope, and then to go through that sequence of events, it's pretty amazing that like at this point today it's resulted in a stable situation.
And I mean, I can tell you that this was the very first pope to resign, to essentially abdicate the throne, right?
Which had to be a major deal as well.
It was a major deal at the time. The second pope to resign was several hundred years later. He resigned literally just to stop the issues happening with the Great Schism, with like the Protestant Reformation, etc. And then the pope that resigned after that was in 2013 when Pope Benedict XVI resigned, the last one. So only 3 popes have resigned, and this was the first one to do so, right? So it's surprising that regardless of all the issues that have happened throughout the years, political, faith-based, diplomatic issues that have happened, it's still going on with big old Papa Frank out there.
Just imagine the state we would be in if some random person wrote a letter to the Electoral College and was like, "I could be the president," and they'd like get him in there.
And they're like, actually, he has a good point.
And then people storm the White House and make a new president, and then that president gets beaten to death and put on trial after death, and then a third president, like. Yeah. It's an unimaginable situation.
Yes, Kurt. These are the 2 stories that I had for you today. Just to remind you a little bit, the last one was a fish hunter going out to hunt seals by using a phonograph. I believe it is now time to go into, I'm going to get real close to the microphone for this, deliberation.
Okay.
What do you think, Kurt?
All right. Here the vibe I'm feeling. Both of them sound really, really true. The second story, the 3 popes story, somehow the pettiness involved in all of this, it really feels really real to me. But I'm at this strange crossroads. I really want the seal story to be true. I really do. Almost enough to just stop recording right now and you never tell me that it's not real if it isn't.
You don't want to know what the truth is.
I don't want to know. No, I'm taking the blue pill, right?
Yeah.
I'm taking the blue pill. I don't want to know. Leave me in the Matrix. Yeah, man, it's a tough choice, but I think I'm going to say I believe the 3 pope story is true. And so, unfortunately, the sealed jaw harp story. I think the 3 pope story is true.
That's what you think is true. Well, Kurt, I am going to tell you that of the 2 stories I just told you, the pope story is false.
Oh, the seals are real.
It is a false story, and you can be happy knowing that the seal being lured by a phonograph is entirely true.
I will take it. I've never been happier to be wrong.
I actually got this while researching some old newspapers. I came across this headline again from the Montreal Gazette saying the headline is "Phonograph lures seals." It's a whole article talking about this man.
Sounds like a video game loading screen tip. Phonograph can lure seals.
Exactly. And it says the opening line of this article from the Montreal Gazette is phonograph music lured scores of destructive hair seals of the lower Puget Sound to their deaths last summer, according to Ed Corfey, who spent several months at the seas. And the last paragraph, which I think is the best part of the kids going out with the jaw harp, says, officials of the commission support Corfey's claim that the seals responded to the music. Another Seattle official, Superior Judge Calvin S. Hall, agrees with them and says he has seen small boys armed with Jews harps bring seals up onto the rocks of the lower Puget Sound.
Wow. That is just amazing to picture. So, okay, then let me ask you, because I swear when you said putting the Pope's dead body on the stand, like a light bulb went off in my head somewhere.
Yeah, so, okay, let me talk a little bit about the Pope story.
That's not delirium. early
It
onset
is not
dementia.
delirium. I
Okay,
did
great.
use a lot of real stuff that happened in history for that story. Now, it is true that there was a bit of a deadlock in the 1292 papal conclave.
Okay.
There was a bit of a deadlock. They were fighting, discussing, whatever. And someone did write to the papacy and say, this needs to happen now. And he did
Right.
become pope. He did become pope.
Okay.
Now, Celestine V was a real pope. He was only pope for less than 6 months.
Okay.
You asked me earlier, did he want to be pope? Did he accept the position as pope? He had no choice. He became pope and he had a couple edicts, but his most popular edict was giving the pope the right to resign. And once it was passed, he immediately said, okay, and resigned. and yeah, so that ended that. So literally less than 6 months happened, and this man became pope and then stopped being pope. And then they just voted again.
My first act as pope is I do not have to be pope anymore, and I'm now not the pope.
The next pope was indeed Boniface VIII, really no relation to Celestine V. The only thing Boniface was really known for doing, he did a little bit of war, but he...
What are you going to do? That's always going on, you know?
Yeah, that's always going on, right? Yeah, everyone's doing a little bit of war.
Yeah.
He jailed Celestine V, right, as he became pope, right?
Okay.
So Celestine V went to jail as not the pope, just a civilian.
Okay.
Died in jail, beaten, removed all of his previous edicts, except the right for the pope to resign. And I don't know, that there was just a couple of like people wanting to kill him, so he was eventually also killed and his body was put to trial. So
okay.
Essentially the beginning and the end of the story are true
Right.
for the most part. I changed a couple things there, so everything in the middle, no families fought against each other. The Colonna and Orsini families were real, but they didn't really do much at this time.
Okay.
There was no oven to burn all these letters in.
Oh no. I feel bad when I asked you about that. I was like, oh, I wonder if he didn't consider that paper burns really fast and it needs to be 6 days straight.
I am going to be honest with you, I did not, Kurt. So yeah, no, the oven. You
were like,
process
you were like, let me add this detail about the Pope related thing and how many letters there were, and then my rural Missouri brain is like, I've started many fires in my time. I know how fast paper burns.
Exactly. But yeah, no, the oven and the current practice of white smoke or black smoke is fairly current, fairly present. So that didn't get started back here. There was no war upon Rome. There was no inner conflict between families. So that is not real. That is not a real story. The pettiness that you said made this the most real did not happen, Kurt.
That had me all the way. I don't know. It's like how we had talked about in a couple of our past episodes about like tying things up in bureaucracy or just stories having weird details that it seems like you wouldn't add if you were making up a story. Yeah, the pettiness made all the difference. That was the defining detail for me.
But yes, you can die happy knowing that the seal phonograph story is totally 100% true.
Oh, thank goodness. To celebrate the truth of the seal phonograph story, I'm gonna make a playlist of what I would play for the Seals. And already I have 2 songs I know I'm gonna put on there. Okay. Paper Planes.
Okay.
And Pumped Up Kicks. And I'm out.
Thank you, Kurt. Thank you. I'm eager to hear what this playlist is. I'm sure we'll share it as much as we can. But this brings up the tally we have between real stories and fake stories. Kurt.
That's true.
1, Luis 2. So I am ahead in the lead with 2-1 right now, Kurt.
That's okay. I did it for the Seals. It hurts to fall behind, but I did it for the Seals.
It's worth it. I'm honest. Honestly,
I'll get my revenge next episode with even more smoke and even more mirrors.
Even more mirrors. Wonderful, Kurt. Well, this was unbelievable. with Kurt and Luis. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us on social media, on Instagram mostly, at Unbelievable Pod. You can find different episodes there. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple, Google. Really, those sites is the best place to find us. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, the tally is me, Luis, winning 2-1. And we'll see you next time when Kurt has 2 wildly fanciful, unbelievable stories for me. And I'll get to decide which is which. So thank you, Curtis, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Luis.